Καλό μεσημέρι. Είμαστε στο Hilton Park, επόμενος καλεσμένος στο live streaming συνεντεύξεων στην ιστοσελίδα της Καθημερινής. Είναι ο κύριος Vincenzo Guzzo, εκ μέρους του ΔΝΤ, μόνιμος πρόσωπος στην Κύπρο. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. We are going to talk about the economy of Cyprus. Is it meeting the expectations of the IMF after the recovery program?
The response of Cyprus to the crisis, to the financial crisis, has been impressive. GDP growth has accelerated for 3 consecutive years from the collapse of the banking system in 2013. Unemployment rate is declining. The fiscal balance has moved from a large deficit to a surplus. Banks' liquidity, emergency liquidity has been paid in full, and deposits are on the rise. And all of this has happened on the back of prudent macroeconomic and financial policies, progress on the structural reform agenda. And what this has allowed also to achieve is for Cyprus to return to the market on favorable terms. And it has allowed a repeated number of rating increases from rating agencies.
So we're not exaggerating when we are saying that there is a success story behind Cyprus today.
It has been a success story. A lot has been achieved. Obviously, there are also still some legacies, some challenges that are left over from the crisis.
Which are certain, if you can give us an example or two.
Well, the private debt is still very high. So both when you look at households and corporate is a very high share in percent of the GDP. The share of non-performing loans is also very high. Despite the fact that the economy has been growing over the past 3 years, non-performing loans are high. And also the stock of public debt is relatively elevated, despite the fact that fiscal policy has been very prudent. So particularly the private sector and the private sector debt and the NPLs, they certainly require action. And now is a good opportunity because there is growth, so it's good timing to try to tackle this problem.
But as far as the Cypriot economy concerns, we don't have an easy answer on each one of the aspects you just mentioned.
It is not an easy answer. It is a challenge, and it requires a coordinated effort on many sides. So on the side of the banks, certainly there are provisions, and so those provisions should be used. It requires an effort on the side of the banks. It requires an effort on the side of the borrowers. Borrowers should be incentivized to go to the table. There should be a strong legal framework in place so that capacity to repay from the borrowers can be extracted. And there could be other tools. There could be that asset swap. So there's a number of measures, but it's important that there's a comprehensive and ambitious strategy to tackle the NPL problem and to allow some deleveraging in the economy from the very high level of debt.
So could a bad bank, as we say, be the answer to that?
Given the scale of the problem,
it had been tested in other countries.
Certainly. Well, given the scale of the challenges that we are facing, all tools should be considered. Now, of course, before one embarks in such a project, should ask himself a number of questions. And that certainly relate in first place from what could be a realistic price at which assets could be transferred to a bad bank. What would be the fiscal implications of it? What would be the governance structure of it? What is the legal framework? Because this is something that in the end is affecting the transfer.
So it's a political matter in the end, as you put it.
It is a technical problem as well. A lot of these issues, I think they have to be considered quite carefully at the technical level, and there has to be an understanding of what would be the implication. Then when all of this is being carefully assessed, I think one is in a good position to answer this question.
The discussion is going somewhere in Cyprus? We have a goal on the issue, or is it just in plain talk?
What I think is going on in Cyprus is there is awareness of the problem. There is increasing awareness. Obviously, at the beginning, the reaction was, there were difficulties in the financial sector, but now there's a clear focus on the NPL problem. and there's increasing focus on the problem, which is important. Awareness is a very important element.
You have been in Cyprus since 2013.
Yes.
You have lived those painful days for all of us. Now, what is your message for the future?
I think what is important is to take advantage of this time. Growth is good, and it shouldn't be wasted. We shouldn't think that growth itself can solve the problem. However, growth is a good opportunity for the country to make progress, specifically the MPLs, the deleveraging. So it's an opportunity that should not be wasted. We should seize it.
My last question for you has to do with the Turkish Cypriot community and your involvement. Is there any progress that you are able to tell us?
So IMF staff has been involved in supporting the search, the efforts for a solution of the Cyprus problem by providing technical assistance across a broad spectrum of competences, so include financial, fiscal, macroeconomic policies. Now, should the negotiation resume, reach an agreement, it would be of utmost importance that institutions are in a position to hit the ground running and they're in a position to deliver sound macroeconomic policies. Now, the IMF staff will be there to support this effort.
So you believe, in your opinion, that a possible solution will benefit the whole of the island, the whole of the country?
It is beneficial, but it is very important that adequate preparation, adequate preparatory work is put in place. And I think this is where we can help.
Mr. Guzzo, thank you for being with us.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε, Παντελή.